Maritime Made is presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc., helping to educate, inform, and celebrate our region's manufacturing successes, because great things are happening in all of our communities.
At CabinetWorks in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, they build beautiful cabinetry in their woodworking shop tucked in behind their showroom. They've been skillfully designing and building beautiful cabinets for kitchens and bathrooms for 40 years. Beautiful cabinets can hold many different household items, but how about a bed? Wall beds, also known as Murphy beds, were so named in the late 1800s after their American inventor, William Murphy. Using the wall bed parts list, the carpenter sends the design program for cutting parts to the CNC machine. This generates the cut list. 4-foot by 8-foot maple plywood sheets are lifted one at a time onto the CNC machine using a hoist called a Delaney arm. The plywood is placed on the air table, where a vacuum system holds the sheet of wood in place. A rubber gasket runs around the bed to seal the suction. The operator runs the program for the cuts on the first sheet.
The CNC machine runs on XY coordinates. The code looks like a string of numbers, but it gives exacting instructions for the cuts made by the machine. The code also includes instructions on the automated switching of drill bits. When the cutting is finished, the wood pieces are pushed forward and down the table. The wall bed requires cuts on 4 sheets of wood. The machine is cleaned off between each one. Some pieces require a little more manual cutting, and that's done on the table saw. Next, each piece goes through the edge bander. This machine glues matching veneer tape to the plywood to create smooth, finished edges on the bed frame. This tape is 3/4-inch veneer. It's fed into the edge bander, runs past 2 blades that define the edge angle. Then hot glue is applied and pressure wheels press it on. A series of robotic arms then trim the top and bottom edges for a perfect finish.
After taping, each piece is sanded, first with an electric sander under a hood, then by hand with sanding blocks. This is just a fine finishing sanding to make sure all the edges are smooth. The wall bed parts are loaded into the freight elevator and safely moved to the next apartment for the finishing work. Using a drill press, the carpenter lines up the piece and precisely creates holes for mechanical assemblies. Different drill bits are used for different assemblies. The bottom panels are laid out on the worktop. Each panel is carefully lined up and marked for assembly. These lines indicate where the bed frame pieces should be screwed to the panels. Each panel is stamped in numerical order to guide the customer with installation. Panels 2 and 3 are marked using a jig and drilled where door handles will be installed later. The frame of the bed is made out of solid birch. 2 lengths are measured, clamped, and cut for the length of the bed frame. 5 cross rails are rough cut and then fine cut to the perfect length on the miter saw.
These 7 pieces that make up the frame are each measured and marked precisely for drilling the assembly holes. Markings are also made to help the customer line up the cross rails along the length of the frame. Setting up a jig on the drill press, the 1/2-inch holes are made. Then setting up another jig, each 3/4-inch hole is made along the more narrow piece. The carpenter works to assemble the frame in a dry fit. The frame is clamped and screwed together to test the markings and drill holes before shipping to the customer. Once all pieces have been marked, drilled, and test fit, they're ready for packaging. The stack of parts are placed on a length of sturdy, corrugated paper, then secured with packing tape. The ends of the paper, Then the length of the paper is scored for easy folding and a tight fit. Packing tape secures the paper around the package. The hardware will go in a separate box. Wall beds made at CabinetWorks are shipped all over North America and are assembled by the customer.
This wall bed is being assembled in the CabinetWorks showroom. 2 gables are first screwed to the header, and the header support is secured. Next, the middle support is put in place. This assembly is lifted upright and mounted into place. The wall studs are marked and holes are drilled on the header. Several screws hold it in place. This black metal assembly is the lift mechanism. There's one secured to each side of the bed, and it's responsible for effortlessly moving the bed up and down. First, the lift mechanism is released. The pressure must be released for safe installation. Then the springs are loaded inside the lift mechanism, one at a time. Once loaded, the installation arm is pulled back and the safety latch is locked in place. Each bed comes with explicit safety instructions on how to operate the springs and the lift mechanism. The springs are powerful and pose a danger if they're not handled properly.
Next, the doors are laid out and lined up. The bed frame is set on top using the carpenter's markings as a guide. The side rails are secured to the frame with screws. Then the foot rail and the head rail are secured to the sides. The 4 corners of the doors are screwed to the frame. Then the rest of the screws are put in place, starting with the side rails, then moving on to all the cross rails. Bolts are attached on both sides of the foot end of the bed. These will attach to the lift mechanism. The bed is lifted in place and attached on each side. Retractable legs are attached to the bottom of the bed, and a sturdy bar is secured between them. Decorative door handles are installed. The supporting feet and bar rotate inside the bed, and it closes against the wall. The carpenters bring the bed all the way back to the floor and do a final tightening of the bolts of the lift mechanism. The frame liners are laid inside the bed and screwed in place. Finally, the wall bed easily folds away.